Okay. We are going to look at number 1 first. Let me make this a little bigger so we can see better. All right. The directions say to find the domain and range for the following relation, and then you need to determine if it is a function or not. So, let's start with domain. What's my domain? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, what do I need to write before my numbers? A bracket. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, our domain is just a list of all the x values inside of the relation. Okay, now let's look at the range. Yep, we got 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Perfect. And again, range is just the y values. All right. We found our domain and range. Is this a function?
Yes.
It is a function. Why?
Because they all have y.
Yes. Every y value has only every x value has only one possible y value. So remember, if you ever want to double check if something is a function or not, we can always create that xy chart. Write down all of our x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we write the corresponding y's. 1 goes with 5, 2 goes with 6, 3 with 7, 4 with 8, 5 with 9. And as you can see here, every x value only has one y value. So it is a function. So we would say yes. And then we would explain that, which we just did. Okay, any questions before we do 2? All right. Number 2 says to sketch a graph of the line y equals -3/4 x minus 2. What could I do to graph this line? There's a couple things I could do. Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do, since it's already in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, is we're going to start by identifying the slope and the y-intercept. Close. I'll show you. And we'll revisit exactly what this means. So, remember, when we are looking at the equation y equals mx plus b, our slope is whatever the value for m is. So your slope is always going to be the number next to x. So what's our slope? Yes, it's -3/4. And then what is our y-intercept? -2. So our y-intercept is always that b. And in this equation, we have a -2, so our y-intercept is going to be -2. Now, I do want you to write it as a coordinate. So remember, in coordinates, we have the x value and then the y value. And I heard somebody say it's going to be 0, -2. So, as a reminder, the y-intercept is telling us where the line touches the y-axis, where it is in the y direction. So, our y in the coordinate is going to be that -2. And then our x for a y-intercept is always 0. So we just put 0, -2. Do we have any questions about that? Okay, so we now have our slope and our y-intercept. We can draw a graph just using those two things. So let's start by making our axes. There's my y, and then here's my x, and I want to label them. So my y, my x. Okay. What is the first thing we should do? Yes, we know that right here, we've got our slope, but there's no coordinate there. We don't know where to put a dot. My y-intercept is a coordinate, so we do have a starting point here. That coordinate we found was 0, -2. So we're going to start by finding that on the graph. In our x direction, we are not going to go anywhere because x is 0. And y, we're going to go -2. So we go -1, -2, right here. This is our y-intercept. So we're going to label it 0, -2. And remember, your y-intercept is just where your line is touching the y-axis. So your y-intercept must be touching the y-axis. It's got to be on the line, like that. Yes?
If we didn't label this, we just draw the line on the quiz, is it wrong?
Do what?
If we just figure it out, draw the line, but don't label it down here on the graph, is that wrong?
No, I won't count it wrong. So there might be a time that I ask you to label your coordinates, but on the quiz,
Just looking for the line.
like for example, this is one of my answer keys. Like you just need to draw the line and it just has to be touching the correct points. So I'm just doing this for your reference.
Okay.
All right, now we have our y-intercept. What do we do now? You're okay.
We're going to do the -3/4.
Yes, we are going to use our slope.
over run.
Yes, yes. So remember, slope is rise over run.
Only is it only -3 and then 4 is positive?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
you were right, Joe.
Absolutely.
I was
So,
confused.
yeah, you're okay. I appreciate you asking. If our rise is -3, when we start
Start from
at this point,
-2.
we start from our y-intercept, how are we going to move?
Down here to the right.
Yes. So rise is -3, so I'm going to start here and go 1, 2, 3. And my run is what?
To the right 4.
Yes, it's +4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And there are my 2 points. All I got to do now is connect the dots.
And that's that.
That's it.
That's that.
That's it. That is it.
So, that's always on, like the slope, if it's a negative, just the top part of the number.
Yes,
is a negative. I thought
yes.
that was in my notes.
I appreciate you pointing that out. So I'm going to say that again for anyone that didn't hear it. Whenever you have a negative slope, only the top number is going in the negative direction. We're going to go down if it's negative, but we always go over to the right. Bree, yes?
Okay, so I think this is confusing on the homework or
Mhm.
the exit ticket. So if we were to label this point here,
Yes?
I would label it, let's see, 4 would come first because that's X.
So we could count.
And then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Let me show you.
Is that right? 4, 5?
Let's check, because I don't know off the top of my head. I drew dotted lines to show where the coordinate is facing. So first I would count my X's. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a +4.
Okay.
And then
Negative.
this is going to go down. So we're counting -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Yes.
All right.
So perfect. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
A little better.
Any questions about number 2?
Does that make the x-intercept -2.5?
Ooh, yes. Thank you for pointing that out. So what Michael just asked, is that mean the x-intercept is about -2.5? So if we look here, the x-intercept is just wherever the line is touching the x-axis. And if you notice, first of all, I'm going to mention I'm not asking you to find this right now. This is just for your information. If we count over on the x line, we have -1, -2, about negative 2.5. So yes, you would be right, Michael. That is about what the x-intercept is.
So mine's like way before 2.5. Well, not like way before.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
not perfect.
yeah.
So did you use graph paper and a ruler? Let me see. No, yours looks right. It's okay. It's close enough to 2.5. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
You're all good.
Freaking out.
Oh no, it's okay. You're doing great. Okay, any more questions about number 2? All right, let's try number 3. Now, for number 3, guys, remember, this is a familiar question that you will probably definitely see again. So if you got the incorrect answer, make sure you correct it in your notes. Let's talk about it.
So our slope is going to be 6.
Yeah, so let's read the directions. It says, what is slope? And then what is the x and y intercept? So we have y equals 6x minus 12. And what Bree said is our slope is 6, the number next to x. Did everybody get 6 for your slope?
Yeah. And we can put it
Good.
in rise over run form and use
You
6 over
sure
1.
can, yes. If you wanted to put it in that rise over run form, you could write it as 6 over 1. Either one is correct. I'm fine with either. I will count both right.
Sorry if you guys excited my voice.
No, you're fine. I love it when you ask questions because other people are probably thinking the same thing and just don't want to say it. So really
When
ask.
it's a whole number, not a fraction, it's always over 1.
Yes, yes. If you ever have a whole number, if you put it over 1, that's the fraction form. Whether it's positive or negative, it's always just over 1. Okay. Now, for the x-intercept, we're going to have to do some math. So let's go ahead and look at the y-intercept because we can find that just by looking at it.
Negative 12.
Negative 12.
And are we going to write that in coordinate form? Or just
Yes,
negative 12?
yes. So we have our negative 12, but I also would like you to write it as a coordinate.
Okay.
So remember, when we have a coordinate, first it's the x value, then it's the y. So for the y-intercept, where is our number going to go? In the x value or the y? The y value. The y-intercept is where it touches on the y-axis. Yeah. Oh, no, you're okay, Star. Yeah. So we're going to put negative 12 in the y spot for the y-intercept. And then the other number is always going to be 0. So the x is 0. And if you are wondering why it's always 0, I'll show you. For example, on number 2, if you have a point anywhere on the y-axis, so if it's touching the y-axis, your x is always going to be 0. Because if it were to be 1, then your dot or your coordinate is going to be somewhere over here. It's not touching the y-axis. If it were to be, for example, x is negative 1, it would be over here, not touching the y-axis. So when it's touching the y-axis, our x is always 0. Okay, now we need to solve for the x-intercept. Does anybody have any ideas for how we could do this?
Rewrite the equation with 0 over y is.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain this again. Our y-intercept, our x is 0. So if I plugged 0 in for x, 6 times 0 is 0, it disappears. So I would get y equals negative 12. That's how we got this y value, right? So if I want to find the x-intercept, instead of setting x to 0, I want to solve for x. So I'm going to set y as 0. So let's show you what that would look like. I'm going to put 0 equals 6x minus 12. Now I need to solve for
So
x.
we're going to add 12 to both sides?
Yes. Now you're just solving this like a regular equation from last unit. You are going to start by adding 12 to get rid of it. Okay.
Divide by 6.
Yeah. So now we have 12 equals 6x. And to get rid of the 6, we do what Bree said. We're going to divide by 6.
So x is equal to 2.
Yes. So, yep, 6 is cancel. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So we solved for x, and now we just have to put it into a coordinate for the x-intercept. So we know from what we just solved, the x is 2, the y is 0. So we're going to write 2 in the x spot. We're going to write 0 in the y spot. So here are your answers. And guys, you're only going to have one question on the quiz tomorrow where you have to find x-intercept. Just one. And it's going to look like this.
So we don't have to graph it? I think
No.
it's easier.
Yeah, you think so? No. Well, you can
like
tell me them for
that.
fun.
Okay.
I know. I like doing algebra stuff, like when you're solving. Oh man. Okay. Does everybody have this written down? Can we move on? Anybody need another minute? Okay. We're moving on. Now I would like for you to get out that practice quiz that I handed to you. Oh, who didn't get a practice quiz? Yeah, let me pass these out again. Here you go. Here you go. So this practice quiz is going to be a guide. It's like a study guide for our quiz tomorrow. You can use this on the quiz tomorrow. It's going to be counted for notes. Your quiz is going to look identical to this, okay? So hopefully this can ease some nerves, make you feel like you got this, because you do. Okay, and I'm going to get out my skinny markers. You guys are welcome to do this in pencil, pen, colors, whatever helps you understand your answers better for the quiz. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. Number 1, the question says, what is the domain and range of the relation? Then, is it a function? Why or why not? So let's start with our domain. And we remember that domain is going to be x values. Range is going to be y values. So for domain, I'm going to put D and a bracket. Okay, what's my domain going to be, guys? Yep. Okay, I've got -2, 5, -4, and then do I need to write -2 a second time? No. So we just have -2, 5, -4. Yes, Erica?
Why is this one putting the number pairs in question brackets? Whereas
That's a great question. I don't know. So, yeah, Erica was asking, in case you didn't hear her, why are the coordinates in brackets? I'm sure there's a technical reason for why. I'm going to tell you that maybe it's just a reminder to put your answer in brackets. I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason, and I could find it and tell you, but I don't know right now. Okay, now we're going to find our range. So we're looking at y values. What is our range? Mm-hmm. 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Okay. Now, is this a function? No.
Because there's more than one y value there than x.
Yeah. So in case we're having a hard time recognizing that, let's do our XY chart. So in our x's, we have a -2, we have a 5, and we have a -4. There's another -2, but we already wrote that. So now let's look at the corresponding y values for each x. When x is negative 2, y is negative 9. When x is 5, y is 2. When x is negative 4, y is 3. And also, when x is negative 2, y is 4. So, we can see here that when x is negative 2, we have 2 possible y values. That means this is not a function. This is not a function. So for our answer, I would say no. This is not a function because, and what should we write for our because?
I'll put X repeats itself.
Has a repeat X factor.
There's a repeated x, okay. What's another reason?
X has too many parties.
Because there is
Yeah.
more than one y value for x.
Yes, yes. So I'll accept all those answers, but the true reason here is because, yes. So we could really say, because when x equals negative 2, y could be negative 9 or 4.
So if X has more than one Y value?
Yes, yes. One of my x's has more than one y. Okay. I'll give everybody a second to write that down. Any questions before we try 2? Okay.
2 makes me realize why we wrote number 1 like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in number 2.
Tricky.
It is tricky. So, for number 2, we're going to start by finding our domain and our range. What is our domain here?
10,
Mm-hmm.
negative 10, 9.
Perfect. 10, negative 10, 9. We already wrote 10 once. We don't need to write it twice. All right. What's our range?
1, 2,
Perfect. 1, 2, negative 3. Wonderful. Is this a function?
Yes.
Ooh,
Oh,
yes.
it is not.
Oh, well, let's check. Let's do our x and y chart.
Yes.
Let's check. I've got some mixed answers. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't. So, let's look at all of our x values here. We have 10. I'm going to write that one. We have negative 10. We have another 10. We don't need to write that again. We have 9. All right. Let's look at the corresponding y values here. When x is 10, y is 1. When x is negative 10, y is 2. When x is 10, y is 1. We already got that written down. We don't have to write it again. When x is 9,
Same number.
y is negative 3. So, do all my x's have exactly one y?
Yes.
Yes.
Because it was both 1.
Yes.
So it's the same. So
So, guys, I don't want you to rely on repeated x's as your reason, because this does have a repeating x. There's a 10 and another 10, but guys, the y is the same. It doesn't have 2 y values. It's the same one. It's just the same coordinate written twice. So it's kind of there to trick you. But y'all got it. So what's our answer here? Is this a function?
yes.
Yes.
Only one Y value.
Yes. So we would say every x value has exactly one y value.
Every X value has.
Exactly one y value. Good. All right. How do we feel about that one? So I'm always going to recommend making that XY chart, because even if you see, oh, I've got 2 10s for X, You want to make sure that it really does have different values for y. Because if it's the same and it only has one value, then it is a function. All right. Ready for number 3? I see you shaking your head, Star. Are you confused? You just don't want to do it.
I'm over it.
That's all right. Okay, let's look at number 3 now. We have the question, is the coordinate 2, negative 18, a solution to y equals negative 5x minus 8? How do we find out if it's a solution? Yes, we are going to plug in our x value and our y value to that original equation. So I like to label things just so I don't lose track of what I'm doing. My 2 is going to be my x. My negative 18 is going to be my y. And now I'm going to rewrite the equation with my numbers plugged in. So my first part is y equals, so I'm going to write negative 18 equals. Then it says negative 5x. My x is 2, so I'll write negative 5 times 2 minus 8. Okay. Everybody take a second to work on that. Tell me when you get an answer. It's right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's work it out together too and make sure. What is negative 5 times 2? Negative 10. Then we need to bring everything down. We've got negative 10 minus 8 equals negative 18. All right. What is negative 10 minus 8?
Negative 18.
All right. Let's double check. Here's what it looks like on the calculator, because you can use calculators tomorrow.
So do we have to work it out on the, if we use a calculator?
If you use a calculator and get the answer, that I guess you don't have to necessarily write your work out, but what I need to see is that statement negative 18 equals negative 18.
Okay.
I need to at least see that part, so I'll show you. So we're going to do negative 10. Remember, your negative button is at the bottom right-hand corner. It's a minus in parentheses. Negative 10 minus 8. That's going to give you negative 18. So we can now write negative 18 equals negative 18. So on your quiz tomorrow, you don't have to write out all of these steps necessarily. If you can do some of it in your head and just plug it in your calculator, that's fine. However, I want you to listen. Whenever we are doing a problem like this, if you accidentally type in the wrong number or something, or if you accidentally put something in the wrong place and you don't get negative 18 equals negative 18, I'm not going to know what you did wrong unless I see your work. So if you write your work out but get the incorrect answer, I can then at least give you partial credit rather than the whole thing being wrong. So I'm always going to encourage you to write your work out. You don't have to, but I think it's only going to help you. So remember, our question is this coordinate a solution? Yes, it is, because they're equal. And you don't have to explain, just say yes. And then I want you to show me why by having this statement circled. I'm going to circle my yes, circle my equation at negative 18 equals negative 18. All right. Any questions about number 3 before we try 4? Okay, let's do number 4. Number 4 is the same kind of question. Is negative 3, negative 9 a solution to 6x minus 3y equals negative 7? How are we going to solve this?
Plug the numbers in.
Yeah, we're going to plug the numbers in. So remember, we have x here, we got y here, and we're just going to plug them in. So I have 6 times x. What is x? -3. Do not lose your your negative signs. Don't lose your negative signs. I know, we got to be really careful. So 6 times -3 minus 3 times, what's y? -9 equals -7. What do we need to do to solve this?
We're gonna do 6 times -3.
Yeah, let's do 6 times -3 first. What is that going to give us? Yeah, 6 times -3 equals -18. So I'm going to write that below.
And then you're gonna do -3 times -9.
Yes, -3 times -9. So,
+27.
yeah, +27. What, Erica?
I got negative as well.
Did you do +3 times -9? Okay, so I'm going to show you both ways. So, first of all, whenever we are doing this whole quantity minus this whole quantity, what I'm seeing that we're doing is we're distributing that negative to make this a -3 times -9 so that we end up with a +27. Or if you would rather do 3 times -9, I'll show you. 3 times -9 is going to get you -27. So I'm going to write -18 minus -27. So remember, when you do minus a negative, it turns into a plus. Those two negatives besides each other.
It's +27.
Yeah. It's just going to turn into a plus. All right. So we need to figure out, is -18 plus 27 equal to -7? So -18 plus 27.
You?
9. So make sure you don't have to write all this work out, although I would suggest it because there's a lot of negatives and there's signs and you want to keep track of what's going on. But you need to have at least this statement written out. 9 equals -7. Is that true? No. So first of all, we don't want to leave this as an equal sign. Put a slash through it. 9 is not equal to -7. So is this coordinate a solution? No. So the two things I'm looking for in your answer is the yes or the no. And then your solved equation here.
-7.
Yes, and we know that this is not true, so that's why our answer is no. Okay. Do we have any questions, any confusion, anything to address before we start number 5?
No.
Okay, all right. Let's move on, guys. Okay, number 5. We've got y equals -2/3 x minus 4. First of all, I want you to notice this is already in slope-intercept form. So there's a really easy way to find out how to graph this without doing any math. What could we do to graph this? Yes, so I'm going to label my y-intercept and my slope. Okay, what is my y-intercept?
-4.
Yeah, -4.
It's 0, -4.
Mm-hmm. So as a coordinate, like Bree said, it would be 0, -4. And then what is my slope? Yes, we have negative 2/3 as a slope. So I'm going to write negative 2/3. All right. So how are we going to use these two pieces of information to draw a line for this?
Graph your y-intercept.
Yes. So
Rise and run.
absolutely. We're going to start with our y-intercept. So we know that our first point is going to be at y equals -4. So I'm going to go down to -4 and put a point. And once you've done that, we are going to use our slope.
So we're going to go down 2 from that point
Mm-hmm.
and over +3.
Yes. So what Bree said is we're going to start from the point we just plotted. Don't you dare go back up to 0. Start from the point we just found. And we're going to do rise over run. So we have -2 as our rise. So we're going to go down 2. 1, 2. And then our run is 3. So we're going to go over 1, 2, 3.
So it's -3 is
-6.
Yeah, we've got a coordinate here of 3, -6. And I'm not going to ask you guys to label your points on this quiz just because I don't want to take up all your time. And
It says label at least coordinates on that.
oh, I guess I did put that in the directions. Okay, so the original test didn't say that. I was recreating it.
So,
You don't have to. If you do, awesome. If you don't, I'm not counting you off. It's
Just looking for the line and the.
I'm just looking
dots.
for the line and the dots. As long as you have dots, that's what I want to see. Yes.
So it's -2 over 3, so the run canceled out the +3. Is that the case, or is that the rule?
Say that one more time.
The run cancels out to a +3, even though it's a -2 over 3 entire fraction.
Yes. So let's talk about that. When we have a negative fraction, remember a fraction is just like a division problem. -2 divided by +3 is going to give us a negative number. When we have a negative and a positive, it gives us a negative.
Yeah, but
If our 3 was also negative, then we would end up with a positive number.
the entire fraction, I don't really understand that the entire fraction was negative. That means that's 2 over 3 and negative fraction negative. Yes, right.
So,
So only the top number is negative. Yes.
Yeah.
so here's kind of the whole thing. Whenever you are looking at a negative slope, it's the top number that's always negative. However, and if this is going to confuse you, don't listen to it. It kind of doesn't matter if you choose to let the top number be negative or the bottom number. It's just that they can't both be negative. It has to be one of them. So, for example, what if I did +2, -3? Watch this. If I go up 2 over -3, 1, 2, 3, look at that. It's still a point on my line. You're going to get the right answer either way. Just one of the numbers is positive, one of them is negative. Because we have a negative slope here, and I'm going to point to this. We have a little slope chart. Whenever we have a slope that is a negative number, whether in a fraction or a whole number, our line is always going to go this way down. It's going to go from top to bottom this way. This is a negative slope. If it was positive, it would be tilted the other way, going up. So we will know that we did it right by the way our line is facing. My slope is -2/3. My line has to be pointing downwards. If it's pointing up, I know I did something wrong. Does that make a little more sense? Okay, good, good, good. Good, good, good. All right, what is the last thing I need to do here?
Draw a line.
Connect the dots. That is important, guys. We're going to connect our dots. Okay.
Labeling the line.
Oops.
Page line.
Yes, so Joe was asking, do we need to label our axis, our X and Y axis? I would like for you to, for your own reference, have it labeled X and Y, just so that you know whether you're going up or over. If you don't have it labeled, I won't count you wrong. But if you do have it labeled and maybe you have them backwards, then at least I can see where you got your incorrect points or something. So kind of the same thing as Candy's question here, do we have to show all the steps? No, you don't have to, but if you make a mistake, at least what you have written can show me what went wrong and you can receive some partial credit. Okay, any questions about that before we try 6? Alrighty, let's try it. We have y equals x plus 2. What should we do?
Slope and y-intercept.
Yeah, let's find our slope and our y-intercept. That's going to be the quickest way to do it. So y-intercept, slope. What's our y-intercept? 2. Positive 2. So what's our coordinate going to be? 0, 2. Good job, guys. And our slope.
1 over 1.
Yes. So we could write it in 2 different ways. First of all, we know that if there's no number next to x, there's an invisible 1. So our slope is 1. But if you wanted to write it in that rise over run form, it would be 1 over 1. Either one is fine. All right. What should I do first?
Get that slope. I mean, the y-intercept.
Yes, yes. Okay, so first we want to plot our point for the y-intercept. It is at 0, 2. So I'm going over 0. I'm going up 1, 2. Here we go.
And then we're going to go up 1 over 1 to the right.
Absolutely. So now we're going to use our slope. Where am I starting from?
The point.
Yes, start from the y-intercept. Do not go back to 0. We're going to count rise is 1, run is 1. Right there. They're pretty close together. Perfect. So again, if you wanted to label your coordinates, just like Candy said, this would be 0.13. And this would be 0, 2. But like I said before, I crossed that out. I'm not going to count you off if you don't label. Now we just got to connect our dots.
The arrows on the end.
Yes, you've got to put arrows on the end of your line to show that it goes on forever. Just like that. Okay. And we know that we did this correctly because our slope is a positive. This isn't negative x, it's positive x. So we have a positive upward moving slope here. Just like with that negative slope, it went down. All right, any questions about that one? Okay. You guys are doing a really nice job today. I appreciate your focus. Let's go to the back. We just got 4 more graphs and then 1 question at the bottom. That's how many questions you'll have on your quiz tomorrow, just 11. That's it. All right? Let's look at these. 7 and 8 are a little trickier because we are not given the equation in slope-intercept form already. These are in standard form. AX plus BY equals C. So we're going to have to do something different here. And here are your options. I'm going to write them out to the side for you. Let me see. I need a sticky note. I have one right here. Okay. So options for number 7 through 8. So first of all, you could convert from standard form to slope-intercept. And then from there, you could find the slope and the y-intercepting graph. Or, let's say you get to the quiz tomorrow and your brain feels like it's going to explode. Remember what we did before, where we would plug in a value for x, like 1, 2, or 3, and then solve for y, find a couple coordinates and graph? You could also do that. If you don't feel like converting, you could also plug in values for x and then solve for y. So either one is fine. Either one is fine. I don't care how you find your line, I just care that you find it. So whenever we work these out today, I'm going to show you both ways, so you can choose which one feels easier to you. Let me grab this. And if there's not enough room on here, which I'm going to be honest, there's not, feel free to use a scrap paper and attach it. Let's start by trying number 7 together. Which way do you guys want to try first?
I want to try plugging in the values.
Okay, first let's do coordinates. Yeah, so 3x plus 4y equals 12. And then I know I was recently having you find 3 coordinates just for a little extra practice, but on the quiz you only need 2 points to make a straight line. I'm fine if you just find 2. So if we're going to solve for coordinates, what we're going to do first is go ahead and make 2 empty coordinates that we know we're going to fill in. And then if it helps, maybe label your x and your y. And now we're just going to choose 2 values. What numbers do we want to use?
1, 2.
1, 2. Love it. 1, 2. Now we're just going to plug them in and solve. So for my first one, 3 times x, let's do 1 first. So 3 times 1 plus 4y equals 12. All right, we know that 3 times 1 is 3, so we've really got 3 plus 4y equals 12. And what do we need to do from here? 12 divided by 1. So why are we doing 12 divided by 1?
Reverse order of
Subtract 30.
So we're trying to get y equals a number. No, you're fine. I was just wondering what got you to do the 12 divided by 1. Were you looking over at the 3 times 1?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Yes, Dream? Yes, we want to get rid of this 3 first, so we're going to subtract 3. The 3's cancel. What is 12 minus 3? 9. Now we have 4y equals 9. Divide by 4. Good. Y equals, let's see what 9 divided by 4 is. Alright, 2.25, or about 2 1/4. So 2.25. So whenever x is 1, y is 2.25. So we're going to write that in our coordinate. Now we've got to solve for another coordinate. So we're going to plug in our 2 for x. So let's see if I can do it on this. 3 times 2 plus 4y equals 12.
Subtract 6.
Yes, so we know that 3 times 2 is 6. So to get rid of that 6, we're going to start by subtracting 6 from both sides. Then we're going to have 4y equals 6. Then what?
Divide by 4.
Divide by 4. And we're going to get y equals,
1.5.
yeah, 1.5. Perfect. So when x is 2, y is 1.5. So there's our two coordinates. Now, if you do it this way, I do need to see your work. I want to see how you found those coordinates. So make sure you attach a scrap piece of paper to your quiz when we take it. Here, I'm going to leave that up there so everybody can see. Here, let me make it farther away so y'all can see. Sorry, guys. All right. Does everybody see that okay? All right. Now that we've got our two coordinates, let's move on by looking at our graph and see where they go. I'm going to start by labeling my x and y axis so that I don't accidentally mix them up. My y is here, up and down. My x is the other one, left and right. All right. Let's plot our first point. How are we going to do that?
Over to the right one.
Yes. Let me get a little closer. So this is going to be tricky to see since we've got kind of small decimals here. There we go. Right, right.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to go over 1 and up 2.25. I'm not going to know exactly where that is, so I'm going to put it about here-ish. Good enough? Okay. Then when x is 2, so we do our over 2 in the x direction and up 1.5, right about there. Okay, there's our two lines, or two dots, coordinates.
So what, now the other way to solve that is?
Rearranging the equation. So I'll show that way next. But let's show, we're going to connect our lines, or our coordinates, to make a line.
When we rearrange it, we're going to come out with whole numbers, yeah.
We'll come out with a prettier answer if we rearrange it. And hopefully, it'll look about the same. If not, okay. So, there's that way. If you wanted to plug in the values and come up with coordinates, now that took a little while. That way takes longer. It's probably easier because you guys are a bit more comfortable with it. We've done a lot of practice with that. But just for fun, let's show the other way. Let's show the other way. So, we have 3x plus 4y equals 12. And we want this equation to be in y equals mx plus b form. So really all we're trying to do is rearrange this equation, and we're kind of solving for y. So let's go ahead and start. What is my first step to getting y by itself? What should I get rid of? Yeah, let's get rid of 3x. Minus 3x. Minus 3x. So now I'm going to have 4y equals negative 3x plus 12. Now what? Divide by 4, guys. Divide everything by 4. And we're going to get y equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. And guys, I'm going to be honest, I think this way's easier. Because we only had to do like 2 steps, and now we can instantly graph this line. With the other one, we had to solve 2 long equations, plug numbers in, plot decimals. If we can remember to just subtract the x and divide that number on y, that's 2 steps. And now I have a slope and a y-intercept. And that took me about 30 seconds versus about 7 minutes.
I like this version better.
Yeah, yeah. And remember, even though this way is a bit faster, if we get to tomorrow and forget how to do it, you can have the coordinates to fall back on.
So when you do that, when you come up with your divide by 40, you divide everything by 40.
Yes, yes.
How did the negative 3 come about?
Because we took the 3x right here and subtracted it
Okay.
to get rid of
Got
it.
that.
And then whenever we did that to the other side of the equation too, it got brought to this side. So we ended up with a 4y left on this side,
You just add that.
negative 3x plus 12.
Okay, this part confuses me.
Uh-huh.
When we bring down to get rid of the 3x, right?
Yes.
Normally, we subtract that side, so this time, we leave them and we keep them as their own numbers?
Yes, so we don't know what x is. We don't know what x is. So we can't combine it with 12 because 12 doesn't have an x on it.
Because we're keeping the x.
Yes.
Different. Duh, okay. All right,
Okay.
now it's clicking.
Good, good. Yeah, so remember, whenever we are plugging in numbers, like over here, we can get rid of the 3 on both sides because there's not an x attached to it.
Okay.
But over here, we have an x that we don't know an answer
So
for.
that's a low number where that one has a partner.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And you can get rid of one without getting rid of the other.
exactly.
Basically, when you bring down a 4 or whatever, you're just putting negative 3 on the one side.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. Okay, so guys, let's kind of check our answer here. If we were going to do it this way, we could look at the y-intercept and the slope.
So our y-intercept is 3.
Yeah, our y-intercept is 3 or 0, 3.
Yeah.
And what's our slope?
Negative 3/4.
Negative 3/4. So let's look over here. Our y-intercept should be about 1, 2, 3. That's pretty close, guys. That's pretty close. We got about 3. And then our slope is negative 3/4. So we would do rise negative 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And our run is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. We did it spot on, guys. Spot on. Okay.
Might be okay.
Good, good.
She showed them the other way. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I was just showing 2 different ways.
First way, yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to label that.
Nope, you don't need to label it. You just need to have your work, like show
Just
work.
the dots and the line and the arrow.
Yep, yep. As long as you have dots on there, as long as there's a line, and as long as the line's got arrows, you're good. Okay, guys.
What if you're real good at making a drawing the arrow? Mine's always off.
That's okay. Doesn't have to be pretty.
Okay, good.
Okay, guys, it is about time for lunch. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video. All right, so we are back from lunch. And remember, for numbers 7 and 8, on your quiz, it'll be the same. Remember, you have 2 options here. You can start by converting from standard form into slope-intercept, and then plot that y-intercept and your slope to find your graph. Or if that process is too confusing for you, you can absolutely plug in a value for x, solve for y, and plot those coordinates. So we're going to do both ways for number 8. And since there's not a lot of space on your paper, if you need a scrap piece, feel free to have a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to do my scrap work over here on this little notepad. So we have the equation x minus y equals 3. We want to graph this equation. So we're going to start with the first option, the first method, which is going to be converting that standard form to slope-intercept form. So we see here that we have an x and a y on the same side. So we have standard form. If we want to convert it to slope-intercept, we need to get that y by itself. So what would our first step be to converting this equation?
Plug in numbers?
Well, we're going to do that option next. We'll plug some numbers in and find coordinates next. But first, we're going to talk about how we would turn this into slope-intercept form.
Well, x is 1, so it
Uh-huh.
is 1x, that's a minus, right?
Yep.
Minus 0,
Oh, if it was 0, the y would disappear.
1.
Yeah. We've got 1x minus 1y equals 3. There we go. Okay. How can I get rid of this x to get y by itself? Yeah. We're just going to subtract 1x so that we can move our x to the other side of the equation. All right. That gets rid of my x's on this side. And now we're left with negative 1y equals negative 1x plus 3. Okay, we're almost there. We have a negative 1y, but we need to just have y.
Add 1.
Ooh.
Y.
Remember, this is negative 1 times y. Yes,
Also
Dream.
add by 1.
Why didn't you just subtract the 3 minus the 1x?
Because, so great question. Dream asked, why didn't I do 3 minus 1x instead of negative 1x plus 3? The reason is because in slope-intercept form, we want our x to be the first thing on the other side of the equal sign. So we want whatever our x is to come before our plus 3. Does that make sense? Okay. So now to get rid of that negative 1, I heard somebody say it, we're going to divide by negative 1. And we're going to do that to everything on the other side. So my negative 1's are gone, and I now have y equals, what is negative 1 divided by negative 1? 1. So now I have a positive x, positive 1x, plus, what is 3 divided by negative 1?
3.
So we have a positive divided by a negative.
By negative.
Yes, that is going to change our sign to a minus 3. Okay, so now we have our slope-intercept form. From here, we can identify the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and list those to the side here. Slope, y-intercept. Okay, so looking at this new equation that we discovered, what would my slope be?
1.
Yeah, it's just going to be 1. Or if you wanted to put it in rise over run form, we could say 1 over 1. And then what is my y-intercept? Negative 3. So as a coordinate, what would my point be?
0, negative 3.
0 in the x spot, negative 3 in the y spot. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. We've got our first coordinate here, 0, negative 3. So we're going to start by graphing that point we found. We'll go 0 in the x direction, And we're going to go -3 in the y direction. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. There is my first point. What should I do next?
Rise over run.
Rise over run. So I'm going to go up 1, over 1. So up 1, over 1. There's another point. Okay, now all I have to do is connect the dots. And let's get that lined up real nice. Okay. So that's one way to solve this. That's one way to find the line. Let's look at the other way, which is plugging in a number for x or y and then solving for the other to come up with coordinates. So I'm going to move this. Does anybody need to see this work still, or can I move it to the side? Okay, I'm going to move it. All right, so we're going to start again with our original equation. That was x minus y equals 3. And remember, we're trying to come up with just at least 2 coordinates because we just need 2 points to make a line. So I'm going to start by making empty coordinates. What values do we want to try plugging in for x? 1, 2. Let's do it. Okay, so all we need to do from here is plug those in and solve for y. So I have x is 1, so I'm going to do 1 minus y equals 3. What should I do to solve for y? You said subtract 3 star? So we could subtract 3. Yeah, I think it might be a little bit more efficient if we get rid of 1 first, because remember, our goal is to get y by itself. Well, this is a positive 1. So we are going to subtract it to get rid of it. So our 1's cancel. We're left with negative y equals, what's 3 minus 1? If I got $3 and I spend $1, how much do I have left? I still have 2. We're not in negatives yet. To get a negative answer, I would need to take away more than I have. And I have more than that. So I'm just going to get positive 2. Now, you are going to be right, though, Star, because we have negative y equals 2. We don't want to know negative y. We want to know positive y. So what are we going to do? Yeah. So, first of all, we know that this is an invisible negative 1. So we could divide by negative 1. And that would give us y equals negative 2. But another trick, if you want to save yourself the process of writing, is if you get negative y equals 2, we can just move the sign. If negative y is 2, then positive y is negative 2. Okay, so we have our first coordinate, y equals negative 2 whenever x equals 1. So we're going to put negative 2 in right there. Okay, now we're going to solve for our next coordinate. We have 2 for x, so we're going to have 2 minus y equals 3. What's our first step? Subtract what?
2.
Yes, subtract 2. What is 3 minus 2? 1. So I have negative y equals 1. What's our positive y going to be?
Negative 1.
Yes, we're just going to switch it. Negative 1. So y equals negative 1 whenever x equals 2. So we're going to put negative 1 in the y spot for this coordinate. Now all we need to do is graph them. So our first point we found was 1, negative 2. So let's look at our graph and make sure that it lines up with what we did earlier. We're going to go over 1, down 1, 2. Ah, look at that. That's already a point we found. 1, negative 2. So we're there.
Miss Taylor,
Yes.
how did you get -1 when it would be +1?
For which one? This one?
Yeah.
So we got negative y, because that 2 canceled and there was still a minus y. So we got negative y equals +1. So we needed to make y positive, which is going to make our answer negative. They kind of flip-flop. Yes, Erica?
This one I just did 4 minus 1 equals 3 plus 5 minus 2 equals 3.
And that
It's
would
the
work
same slope.
perfectly fine. That would work perfectly fine. Love it. Okay, so let's see. We already have that first point plotted. Over 1, down 2. So there's that. Now let's try the second one we did. Over 2, down 1. And what do you know? It falls on the line that we made. So either way is going to work for you. Either way. If you prefer to convert it from standard to slope intercept, great. If you prefer to plug in x's or y's to find 2 coordinates, that is also great. Whichever one you prefer. Okay, any questions on that? Any questions? All right, let's move on to number 9 then. Okay, number 9, we have y equals -2. We talked about these yesterday. What am I going to do to graph a line like this?
Extra 1, right?
You could do x is 0. What else did you say, Mike?
Extra 1.
You could put x as 1. You could put x as anything. So we know that if we have an equation that says y equals -2, that just means no matter what we put in for x, doesn't matter. We could put 0, 1, 2, we could put 1,000. Our y is always -2. So you could plot as many points as you want. That y is not going to change. So now we've got a couple of points. Let's go ahead and graph those. I'll start at 0 for the first one. And then we're going to go down 2 on the y-axis. 1, 2. Here we go. If I have x is 1, y is -2, I'll go over 1, down 1, 2. If I have 2, -2, same thing, over 2, down 2. Doesn't matter what your x is. Y is always going to be at that height. No matter what coordinate you choose, you're going to end up with a horizontal line like this. So all we need to do now is connect the dots. So I'm going to put my straight edge on there, and I'm going to trace it. And then don't forget to draw arrows on the ends of your lines. And that is what the graph of y equals -2 is going to look like. Any questions about number 9? Okay, let's try number 10. 10 is x equals -2.
So x is always going to be -2 no matter what.
Exactly. That just means x will always be -2. So let's just make a couple of points. My x is -2, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in. And then my y could be anything. Yes, Erica?
So for number 9, we're just defining a 0 slope, and for number 10, we're defining a undefined slope.
Exactly. Exactly.
0, 1, 2.
All right, we'll do 0, 1, 2. Okay, let's graph these. We've got x is -2, so I'm going to go over 1, 2. Y is 0, so I am not going to go up or down. I'll just put my point right there. Again, I have x is -2, and then y is 1. So I will go over -2 and up 1. Now I have x is -2, and y is positive 2. So I'm going to go over negative 2 and up 2. And again, it doesn't matter what your y is. It does not matter what height you put your dot at, your coordinate. X is always negative 2. So all we need to do is trace a vertical line at x equals negative 2. Just like that. Okay, any questions about that one? Good deal. I'll give everybody a second to finish writing, and then we're going to move on to our last question on the practice quiz. All right. Number 11 asks us, what is the slope, y-intercept, and x-intercept of this equation here? So we're already in slope-intercept form, aren't we? We already have a y equals mx plus b. So we don't have to do much here. What's our slope?
-5.
-5. Our slope is always that number directly next to the x. -5. What's our y-intercept? 10. Good. The y-intercept is always that number at the end. So I've got 10. Now, what would my coordinate be? 0, 10. Remember, my x is going to be 0, and my y is going to be 10 because this is the y-intercept. Okay, now we need to find the x-intercept. How are we going to find that?
Draw the line and see where it is.
We could draw a line and see where it is, but I want to know how to do it mathematically. I didn't give you a graph here. Yes?
You set y to equal 0 and then you solve it like it's linear equation.
Yes, exactly. So in a y-intercept, the x is going to be 0. In the x-intercept, the y is going to be 0. And we're just going to solve for x. So all I need to do here is write out to the side 0 for y equals -5x plus 10. And I'm just solving for x. So what do I do first here?
Subtract 10.
Subtract 10. All right, my 10s are going to cancel. Now I have -10 equals -5x. Divide by -5. Good. Okay, so my -5's cancel. What is -10 divided by -5?
3.
Not 3.
2.
2. Positive 2. Those negatives cancel each other out. So 2 is x. And then what am I going to do with that answer?
Circle.
You could circle it, absolutely.
Put it over again.
But I really want to put it over here. Yeah, we're going to make sure that we fill that coordinate in because this is where your answer needs to be. All right, guys. Any questions about that? Okay, so this is your quiz tomorrow, okay? It's going to look just like this. And I'm telling you, identical. I literally put your quiz into a Google Doc, I typed it out, and then I just copied and pasted it into a new document, and I changed the numbers in every question. It's the same quiz, okay? So you can use this tomorrow on your quiz. Use it as notes. This is also a good little study guide if you want to peek at it tonight. If there's anything that you need reminding on, how to solve any of these, you need a refresher, this whole lesson will be on YouTube as soon as you leave the room. So feel free to go back and watch this again if you find it helpful. But yeah, that is all today, guys. If anybody needs anything, I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording.